Assalamu alaikum. Today we're going to look at some of the greatest short stories from across the globe, spread across time and space. So, to begin with, we are going to look at the Horsefair at Opdorp, written by Emil Heron, a Belgian writer who is mainly known as for his art criticism. He is an art critic and a playwright, but mainly known for his poetry. What you would find so special about his writing is that his writing is purely impressionistic. There is plenty of images and symbols to go around, but little action. Action, yes, you would find action, which is a sensual treat. You would find that there is so much of a visual ambience provided for you to get into or escape into, and you would find that there is there is each noise, each smell, each taste is described to the extent that you are you feel the pain, fear, all those feels. It's like full of feels. Now here, in this particular story, there is not much going on, but what you do find is that one event that happened some 20 years back that changed the face of this village. Now, this village called Opdorp is probably situated somewhere between Flanders and Brabant. Now, in this particular village, which is quite peaceful, lovely scenery, the cows in the pasture, and all sorts of, just a sleepy little town. That kind of impression is given to you. What makes this place special is the annual horse fair where all sorts of horses are sold. And this horse fair is really popular because there are plenty of people coming from, all over the place. Not just the locals, even the foreigners, they come here to buy horses and be entertained. There are all sorts of treats, as in like different kinds of flavors you would find here, and a typical fair like snake charmers and the jugglers and the clowns. Every single thing that you would find attractive in a fair is available here. So people come here mainly for this one particular reason, to buy horses, because they sell the best horses. Okay, during this horse fair that is held only once every year. Now this was quite popular for a long time, but over a period of years its popularity has declined. The reason is what the story is about. Now, what we are told is some 20 years back, there seems to have been an event as in during the horse fair, a hare had appeared from this person from Tremont, and that is the undertaker of Tremont, who is quite rich, has sent his hares to be resaddled with a new set of horses. Because the old horses have bedraggled or like totally worn out. They've grown old and worn out and they're limping. So he has sent his people to his riders to fetch new horses. So we are given an image of how this horse appears like slowly limping into the streets and into the horse fair, and how once the exchange has been done, once new horses has been bought and have been bought, and how they've been hitched to the hearse. I hope you understand, hearse is basically a conveyance that carries the funeral, right? The dead body. So how the hearse has been once again hitched with new horses, it goes on full throttle. At full throttle, as in like, okay, sensibly speaking, logically speaking, you would assume that any horse that is sold in such a horse fair would be well trained, not to trample upon people, to go slowly wherever required, or gallop, or where it's free, right, or trot where necessary. But here what you find is that these sets of horses are so energetic and so careless and so wild that they just, once they are hitched to the hearse, the carriage, they just run across the streets and trampling everyone in their way. They don't seem to really care about who gets trampled under their feet. Now, this is quite symbolic of death. We are given the impression that death has limped slowly into the village, and In this fair, the death has been rejuvenated, refreshed, and now it's going full throttle, doing its job, killing people left, right, and center. This is the symbol, the major symbol you find in this particular short story. Since that event, fewer and fewer people have come to this horse fair, and everyone is afraid because they feel the fair has been cursed. Cursed because at that time, when the hearse was, hitched with fresh horses from the horse fair, there were so many deaths, so many injuries, so many people got wounded. Now, this undertaker of Tremont is the only character we have spoken about. I mean, that the writer speaks of, but even that person is not, given any particular character. If you wish to find a character in this particular story, you would find, you could say that death is the only thing that you can call a character, or like think of as a person. So this is about it for this particular story. I hope you read them. It's really beautiful the way it has been written out. Now we'll move on to the next story. Let me pause it for a second. Now our next story is from Eliza Orzeszkowa. Do you remember? This is something that I felt really was beautiful. Is very beautifully written. Now Eliza Orzeszkowa is supposed to be a Polish writer, and she is known mainly for as a feminist writer. Okay. Now, do you remember is a story that is about a person. Just a second. So this is about a person who has been living probably a contented life. He seems to have wanted a life where he is extremely career oriented. He has wanted to, build his business, or whatever material pursuits he's wanted, he has achieved. Now he is at a stage where he is all by himself, and people call him fortunate because, well, he has achieved his goals and well settled. He's a wealthy man now. Now, do you remember is a painful story, a rather melancholic, because it reminds you of your roots. So here there's this person, he is happy with everything, not at all discontented. But then, after everything he has achieved, he begins to feel dissatisfied with his life. He keeps telling, what is wrong with me? Everything is fine with me, and why do I have to feel so upset? And then, when he has completely lost any joy in the company he keeps, or the pursuits that he once he enjoyed, like going for plays and to watch, or to spend time with his friends, or to do businesses or whatever. All those pursuits have lost their glamour. So now he is all by himself, and he is worrying what has happened when he comes across this letter from his sister. So once he sees the letter, he is excited. His state of ennui is broken. Ennui, I hope you understand, ennui is the state where you don't feel anything, where nothing seems right. No food tastes good, no pastimes gives you any kind of enthusiasm or excitement, no work brings joy. It's a state of ennui that happens when you are jaded, when you have lost your purpose and your focus, when you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. So here when he is like at his lowest of low, when he is in the extreme ennui, he happens to receive a letter from his sister Anulka, and he's so happy to read it, happy, sad, and he is what do you say, not remorseful, but he's reminded of so many things that he seems to have forgotten. So the first part he reads with joy, second part it makes him cry. He makes stops in between. He doesn't read it continuously because he wants to recall things that his sister has mentioned. The whole letter runs something like this. She keeps talking about how they had this orchard, how those trees that they used to watch, they have grown, how the children had the nursery, that her own children have grown up in the nursery that they have grown in, that is, a brother and sister have grown in. She calls him Vladia, which itself is painful for him because nobody calls him with that pet name anymore. And and she reminds him of their maid, or like the governess, who raised them and has raised her children as well. She reminds him of the oak trees and the honey that they used to collect, and the berries. All of these things, the fondest of fond memories of childhood, all of these she reminds him, and every memory is a treat for him. And they bring back all the things that he has missed over time, but hasn't allowed himself to miss over time. Now in turn he picks up his pen and writes, what about the dog? You didn't mention the dog, right? And he makes a promise that he would come back to where he belonged, because that is where he belonged. Even though he is prospered, even though he is wealthy now, even though he has achieved all his material goals, he is very, very lonely. He is not satisfied, he is not content. Finally he realizes that to go back to his roots is the only source of joy now, and he promises to keep that, to go back to his roots once again. So this is one story that really touched me. I hope you read it and enjoy it, and well, remember. Okay, so next, let me see what exactly we need. So here we have the next story, The Man Who Tamed a Shrew. Does it sound familiar? Well, when I first read the title, I thought it was The Taming of the Shrew. Well, apparently Shakespeare must have read this before he wrote his own play. Now this was written by Jan Manuel, and he was a nobleman, and what's special about him is that, just a second, let me just go back to, well, what's special about him is that he was not only a writer, he was a warrior. I mean, he went to war at 12. Can you imagine? And he was a lord, he was a duke of a realm, he was later on a prince, he's mainly a Spanish writer, and he's written plenty of work, and yeah, a medieval writer, if you hadn't noticed his time frame, 1282 to 1348 possibly. So here you have this almost similar set of characters: Baptista, Regent of Padua; Caterina, daughter to Baptista; Bianca, daughter to Baptista; Vincentio, an old gentleman of Pisa; Licentio, son to Vincentio, in love with Bianca; Petruchio, gentleman of Verona, suitor to Caterina; Grimio, Hortensio, suitors to Bianca; and Tranio, Biondello, servants to Licentio; Grumio, Curtis, servants to Petruchio; Pedant, set up to personate Vicentio; widow, tailor, haberdasher, servants attending on Baptista and Petruchio. The plot is plain and simple. Second, please. So you have Baptista, who has two daughters, Caterina and Bianca. Now, Caterina is somewhat of a shrewd and quite popular for her fiery temper, while Bianca is beautiful and amenable, but at the same time she is not allowed to marry unless the elder sister is married. So there are plenty of suitors who come over or asking for Bianca's hand, but the father, he feels that unless Kate is married, Bianca should not be allowed to because he did not want Kate to be left all alone later. So it so happens that Lucentia, a student, happens to fall in love, or probably, yeah, happens to fall in love with Katharina, and but then he has also heard that Baptista will not allow Bianca to be married before her elder sister Katharina. So, since the situation is quite complicated, he is unable to do anything here, and he just keeps waiting for things to solve out by themselves. So, in the meantime, there are two local men, Hortensio and Grimio. Grimio is quite elderly. Both are asking for Bianca. I mean, both wish to marry Bianca, but she doesn't like either of them. So they have to resort to a range of tactics to try and further their interest. So Grimio hires Lucentio, disguised as a Latin tutor, to woo Bianca on his behalf. Hortensio was the musician to try and get into her company. Now all of this is going on, and here you have our hero Petruchio, who is a young friend of Hortensio from Verona, and he hears about Kate and takes it up as a challenge, and promises that he would, you know, tame Kate. So they get married, and he takes Kate along with him, and he there tortures, or rather bullies her, to the extent where he becomes quite obedient. I don't know, this medieval method of torturing or bullying a wife into submissiveness is not something I approve of, but well, the way it has been presented is quite funny. So she is deprived of so many things, all the luxuries that she must. What we are given to understand is that a person would be, at least a woman becomes a shrew only when she is allowed too much of liberty, and if all her liberties are taken away from her, she would become obedient and submissive. That's the impression we are left with this particular work. But if you happen to see Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, it's not all that bad, right? All that bad in the sense, not entirely what do you call it, offensive to the female community. So here we see a Kate being reformed or transformed into a dutiful wife, and when they do come back to visit, they find that Lucentio and Bianca, having fallen in love, or already married, and and Hortensio, after having waited for a while, has married. I mean, waited for a while for Bianca to reciprocate, has now married a widow. Now there is a kind of a challenge as to figure out who has the most obedient wife. Hortensio calls his widow. She does not respond. Lucentio calls Bianca, his wife. She does not respond very favorably or obediently. But when Petruchio, he calls his wife Kate, she so obediently comes to him. So we are given a testimony as to how a woman should be submissive and obedient, and well, this seems to have been quite popular during its time. And even Kate gives, exhorts about being obedient to one's husband. Well, this is all the story is about. It's not as if like okay, I'll reserve my opinion to myself. This is not the time and place for me to voice it. Each one is entitled to their own opinion. We'll move on to the next topic, which is the Norwegian writer Jonas Lie's The Story of a Chicken. Now, the story of a chicken, it could be seen in several different ways, but basically the story is about this one chicken who is very different, wants to be unique, has ideas, the ideas as in like what's wrong with this world, and trying to figure out a way to reform it, and finally succumbing to the pleasures of it, and totally disregarding all the principles it's wanted to live with. So you have this one beautiful egg that's cracking open to reveal this chick that is quite pompous, arrogant, showy, has plenty of opinions, and the mother hen does not understand what's wrong with the baby. So the mother hen, she leaves every other chick she has hatched, and she just looks after this particular chick. And this chick seems to be very opinionated, in the sense like she does not understand why they have to have this yellow down as in like yellow feathers, while the older grown up hens and cocks have this beautiful reddish, greenish, or brownish flock of cloak, like a cover, which is quite extravagant and ostentatious. So it does not understand why they are supposed to eat at a certain time or sleep at a certain time, how why they need to all follow the mother wherever she goes, or the young chick does not understand several things. I mean, it's not as if it's the hen's job or the chick's job to understand the world, right? So she wonders, why are we given food? Why are we given one kind of food at a certain time? Why are we asked to come out of our coop at a certain time? Or why do we have to return to it at a certain time? Why can't we have our own way? And it picks quarrels with all the other chicks. So initially the others try to tame her, or like try to look after her, but then she, over time she makes so many enemies. I mean, who would put up with your bad, what do you call it, bad humor for too long, right? Nobody does. So she alienates herself from all the other chicks as she's growing up, and she feels, not she may or may not feel it, but the others feel that it's better we leave her alone, because her opinion seems to, confuse the others. It seems to confuse them, or making them disregard their job. Now she even asks, why is it our job to lay, I mean, as a hen, why is it my job to lay eggs? And why do I have to warm it? Why do I have to take care of it so seriously, so strenuously, forgetting all other things? Why do I have to take care of my eggs? And no matter how many eggs I lay, they just seem to disappear every morning. And every time the maid comes and takes away all those eggs, what happens to those eggs? What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of reproduction? She decides that she wouldn't lay a single egg in her life. She decides she does not want a cock. I mean, like, as in, she does not want to mate with a just a second. Yeah, as I said, she did not want to lay any eggs, and she was wondering what happens when the mother hens miss their eggs. I mean, all the eggs that they have laid, when the maid comes and picks them up, she wonders how they seem to, look for those eggs, or grieve for the missing eggs, but then once again carry on laying more and more eggs, but for whose benefit? And one day she sees a heap of eggshells, and then she is all the more depressed, because whatever labors that they have gone through, whatever hardships they have gone to lay those eggs and protect those eggs and take care of them, they are all pointless now. And then she sees all those, all those hens and cocks being, going through the butcher's block, and it makes her all the more depressed. So what are we being fattened for? What are we being raised for? Is it all for people to eat us, for humans to eat us? I mean, there is no exact mention of humans, but we are given the impression that all the labors, all the pains, all the things that we considered serious, or the purpose of life, as in, all of those seem to be moot when it comes to, when you actually think about it. So the little chick that has grown now and has had all these opinions about how life seems to be purposeless, and is totally depressed, disillusioned, completely disillusioned with everything. She's so saddened, and at one point she just wants to be by herself, and she comes across this young cock, She sees him in all its glory, falls in love, and forgets what she was so opinionated about, what she was thinking of that was so unique, how she had been given an understanding of the world, or the understanding of how terrible their lot was, or their life was, or whatever they were doing was how pointless. All of these things she forgets once she falls in love. That's all the story is about. I hope you enjoyed them. They were great reads. They were wonderful reads. Yes, it's about it. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.